Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I want to tell you a little about this course before you begin. So, unlike a diet program that tells you you're going to do something by the end, you're going to achieve some big goal. What I'm not going to do is, I'm not going to tell you that by the end of this course, you are going to be an intuitive eater. But here's what I will tell you. By the end of this course, you'll feel more confident, have greater self compassion, have more trust in your body, have skills to handle different emotions, and lifelong strategies for how to manage negative self talk. I also believe you will have made strides in your ability to have unconditional permission to eat all foods. As you're taking this online self-study course, please note that we're going to start with principle 1 and end with principle 10. This is really for simplicity. The order of principles might not align with where you're at personally, so feel free to go out of order if you would like. It may make the course a little clunky, but I do still believe it can be done. Each module will take you anywhere from 40 minutes to 2 hours, depending on how long it takes you to do the activities during the module. I suggest doing 1 to 2 modules per month and really taking your time getting through the material. And that's really up to you. If you want to do 1 module per month, if you want to do 3 modules per month, it's really up to you and your comfort level. Additionally, I want you to know that the 10 principles are listed in the workbook in a different order than they are listed in the most recent edition of Intuitive Eating, edition 4. I just want you to be aware of that in case you have the 4th edition, and in case you're confused by that. So just be aware that they are in a different order, but I don't think that's as important as just giving yourself time to really take your time to get through each module and each principle at your own pace. A little about me. I'm a mom of 2. I have a daughter, Paige, who is going to be 9 soon at the time of this recording, and a son, Cameron, who is 6.5. I've been a dietitian for over 15 years. I'm a certified intuitive eating counselor, a podcaster. My podcast is called Nutrition Unmeasured. I do have a history of poor body image and an eating disorder, which if you'd like to hear more about that, I do talk about that a bit on my podcast, Nutrition Unmeasured. I recognize my social privileges as a cisgender, able-bodied white woman living in a smaller body. And I think it's important for me to mention this, as my unearned social privileges have made certain and many aspects of my life, quite frankly, easier. My biggest priority as a dietitian and coach in this space is to continually listen and learn from those who have had lived experiences that I do not have. I also prioritize continued education that ensures I have the tools to support those I work with and speak to. If at any time during this self-study course, you think you would like to work with someone with a similar background or identity as your own, please reach out to me and I can help guide you in the right direction. An important disclaimer: this course is for general informational purposes only and does not replace the guidance of your own personal healthcare team. This course is not for those with an active eating disorder. At the beginning of each module, we will do a short, roughly 2-minute guided meditation and affirmations brought to you by Melinda Van Kirk, a yoga teacher, Reiki practitioner, and artist in Columbus, Ohio. I've had the pleasure of experiencing yoga and Reiki and meditation with Melinda, and I'm really excited to bring her meditations to you during this course. I do want to note, anytime I have a voices segment, which I'll tell you about in a moment, as well as meditation, you might need to increase the volume on your computer just during those segments, as sometimes Zoom just doesn't catch the volume increase that I try to put on the screen. So please just be aware that you might need to turn off your volume a little bit, and I apologize for that inconvenience. So I want you to go ahead and get comfortable and in a good position for breathing and relaxation. I also want you to know that if this is not something you're interested in, you can go ahead and move forward and skip the meditations.
Let's start in a comfortable position, either seated in a chair, sitting on a cushion or lying down, somewhere you can be comfortable for the next few minutes. Begin to slow your breath, just noticing how you're feeling in this moment. And allow your breath to flow easily in and out of the nose, and slowing it down, lengthening the inhales and matching the length of the exhales. Now beginning to draw awareness to your heart center, focusing your attention there and just beginning to tap into how you are feeling in this moment. Perhaps placing one palm on your heart with the other one on top feels right for you. I'm going to offer up some affirmations. You can choose to say these out loud or just repeat them to yourself silently. I am human. It is okay to make mistakes. I give myself the attention I deserve and need. I care for myself by giving myself time and energy. I accept and love myself wholly for who I am. I am worthy. I am enough. Continue breathing in and out from your heart center, just feeling that wave of compassion and love wash over you. And as you are ready, beginning to draw your awareness back into your body, taking some long, slow breaths just as you began this practice. Let your hands rest gently down beside you or on your thighs, and begin to slowly blink your eyes open, drawing awareness back into your body and into the space around you. And I offer you to take this feeling of compassion for yourself and for others with you throughout your day.
All right. Now let's go ahead and do an introduction to this course, as well as discuss what is intuitive eating. This course is meant to help you with the following: recognize areas in your life where diet culture may be lurking, recognize diet culture's pervasiveness, identify hunger and fullness cues, apply a variety of strategies to foster a positive relationship with food, allowing unconditional permission to eat, practice mindfulness when eating, develop strategies for coping with emotions using kindness and self-care, analyze health habits to focus on instead of the number on the scale, demonstrate body acceptance, practice gentle nutrition, and develop body food choice congruence, and apply intuitive eating principles to your daily routine, continuing to build and improve upon them. So because you purchased this course, you will receive a 10% discount per month on my Nutrition Unmeasured Intuitive Eating and Wellness virtual coaching program, which is an extension of this online course that is focused on you personally with bi-weekly one-on-one coaching sessions. Just keep in mind, this must be purchased within 6 months of purchasing this course. So the moment you purchase this course, that's really when that clock started. And so 6 months from that day, you'll get that 10% discount if you decide to move forward with the program. Each module provides one roughly 2-minute guided meditation from Melinda Van Kirk, a review from the previous module's concepts, a review of any self-study assignments that I gave you during the previous module, new concept and key concept overview from the current principal, sound clips of colleagues, friends, and my kids, who of course are the best intuitive eaters. You'll hear from Paige 1 or 2 times throughout this course. She loves to be on my different, either whether it's the podcast or things like this. And then I will also, at the end of each module, provide new self-study assignments and helpful resources for further learning, which can all be found on that resources sheet that I sent you at the time of purchasing this course. I will also give you some mantras or intentions to consider until the next time, until the next module. So the 10 modules are, you probably guessed it, based on the 10 principles of intuitive eating. So let's just do a quick run through. Module 1, this module here, is the introduction, and then also we'll talk about rejecting diet mentality. Module 2 is honor your hunger, where we'll talk about that idea of attunement and interoceptive awareness, your ability to really feel the signals and notice the signals that your body gives you. Module 3, make peace with food. Module 4 is about challenging the food police. Module 5, feel your fullness, again, brings up that idea of interoceptive awareness. Module 6, discover the satisfaction factor. Again, we talk about interoceptive awareness there. Module 7, cope with your emotions with kindness. Module 8, respect your body. Module 9, movement, feel the difference. Again, we'll talk about interoceptive awareness when it comes to deciding whether you should work out or, what type of movement you're going to engage in on any particular day. And then module 10, which, is incredibly important, but left for the last module on purpose, which we'll talk about then, is gentle nutrition and closing remarks. As far as the requirements for this course, the intuitive eating workbook is what we'll be using throughout this course. I have it here to show you. It looks like this. I should have sent you a link to purchase this before you start the modules. If you don't have it by now, that's okay too. It's never too late to buy it, but I will have you pause throughout each module to fill out certain worksheets in there. And then again, I'll give you a little bit of some assignments in between modules to work on and to continue with your journey between modules, and they'll be through that workbook. So that's the requirement, really. The only other requirement is that I will be giving you some self-study assignments, which will roughly take about 30 minutes to an hour in between modules. Really, it'll take as long as you want it to take. And then optional reading that I recommend is the Body Respect book by Lindo Bacon, and then also Body Kindness by Rebecca Scritchfield. Both of those books are listed in your resources page that I sent to you at purchase. So what is intuitive eating? Let's start with that. Intuitive eating is characterized by eating based on physiological hunger and satiety cues rather than situational and emotional cues. It's associated with psychological well-being. The cornerstone of intuitive eating is satisfaction. I snapped this picture of my daughter, Paige, while she was eating one of her favorite snack bars, a Lara bar. And I just thought it really was a great way to capture on film satisfaction. When you take a bite of food and it's just so good, you close your eyes, you go into dreamland. It just tastes so magnificent. And I feel like satisfaction is all over this picture. And yeah, I just love this photo. She had no idea I took it, but she just looked like she was in heaven after taking that first bite. Intuitive eating is a journey, not a destination. There's no end game or goal other than to continue working on self-compassion, trusting your body, letting your body be your guide, and of course, enjoying food for all its positive benefits and flavors. Intuitive eaters eat the foods they desire with attunement to hunger and fullness. What intuitive eating is not, it's not a diet. It doesn't have strict rules and guidelines, and it's not a weight loss plan. There is a lot of research when it comes to intuitive eating and the history. It's been around since 1995. So that's when the 10 principles were created back in 1995 by co-authors Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. And ever since then, they've been edited and revised. And then the latest edition, edition 4, came out in 2020. I actually live in Columbus, Ohio, and I went to graduate school at the Ohio State University, and they at that university have done a lot of research on intuitive eating. This one was from 2006. It looked at 3 factors: unconditional permission to eat, eating for physical rather than emotional reasons, and reliance on internal hunger and satiety cues. Intuitive eating scores were negatively related to eating disorder symptomology, body dissatisfaction, poor interoceptive awareness, pressure for thinness, internalization of the thin ideal, and body mass. In other research, intuitive eating has been associated with lower markers of distress, such as disordered eating, food preoccupation, food-related anxiety, body dissatisfaction, binge eating, and uncontrolled eating and depression. I do have another link if you're looking for more research, because there's a lot. There's a link in the handout or the list of resources that I provided, where there's a comprehensive list of even more studies that have been done on intuitive eating. Next, I want to ask you, what's your why? Before beginning, I want you to really think about why you're here today. Why did you purchase this course? Write a letter to your future self that describes where you are now and where you would like to be by the end of this course, or even further down the road when it comes to your relationship with food and your body. You can do this now. You can go ahead and pause and do this now, or you can do this before the next module. I will remind you of this assignment at the end of this module. There's 4 core characteristics of intuitive eaters: unconditional permission to eat, eating for physical rather than emotional reasons, reliance on internal hunger and satiety cues, and body food choice congruence, or how foods make you feel, and choosing foods based on what you know about them and how they make you feel. You'll notice your opportunities after taking this assessment and looking at your scores per the instructions on page 10 in your workbook. After taking this assessment today, you should notice your scores improving throughout the course and beyond. If they don't, also, that's okay. I'll encourage you to keep taking this assessment throughout the course, or at least in the middle and at the end, to see where you've improved, or just to see where your opportunities are. So go ahead and pause this module until you're ready and fill out the assessment on pages 8 to 9. Now we're going to start with the first principle: reject diet mentality. This can be found on pages 13 to 31 in your workbook. Key concepts include self-compassion, how diets hurt, not help, getting rid of diet tools. Let's start with self-compassion. Research indicates that adopting a self-compassionate stand toward experiences related to your body may help facilitate intuitive eating and overcome body dissatisfaction. This was taken directly from the Intuitive Eating Workbook. Additionally, self-compassion is associated with well-being, increased feelings of happiness, and greater personal initiative to make needed changes in your life. The fact that you're here today taking this course tells me that you have self-compassion. You realize something needed to change, and instead of ignoring that thought or pushing it away, you acted on it, and you're doing something about it. I'm often struck by how people, including myself at times, talk to their kids, family, or friends differently than they talk to themselves. So over the next months, or however long it takes you to get through these 10 modules, and really forever, I'm going to give you constant reminders to be kind to yourself. And I want you to give yourself constant reminders to be kind to yourself, and treat yourself like you would treat someone that you love. After all, if you want to be the best friend, partner, parent, daughter, son for those you love, that really starts with first loving yourself. So what have you done to show self-compassion lately? Again, purchasing this course, I think, is a good step. What else can you do? Have you shown compassion for yourself by doing things that make you feel good? Going for a walk on a sunny day, taking a long bath, getting a massage? What about just the simple act of giving yourself a hug or a pat on the back? or even just forgiving yourself for a mistake, quote unquote, that you might have made. These are all examples of self-compassion, and we all have it in us to be self-compassionate. Something I say often when working with people on intuitive eating is to be curious instead of judgmental. And you're going to hear that often throughout this course. If you find yourself in the kitchen late at night eating a pint of ice cream, for example, judging yourself with guilt and shame is not helpful. Instead, try to be curious about what unmet need you have at that time. What unmet need do you have that brought you into the kitchen seeking comfort in ice cream in the first place? Be curious, not judgmental. You can write this down and put it somewhere to remind yourself of the importance of self-compassion. I want you to go ahead and pause until you're ready and do the self-compassion exercises on page 17. We're going to continue to revisit your internal self-talk, self-nurturance, self-compassion. But for now, let's talk about diets and why they just aren't worth it. Here on the left side of the left column here on this chart says what diets promise. Diets promise improved self-esteem, weight loss without restriction, weight loss without getting off the couch, and X amount of weight loss in X amount of days. What diets actually provide is a decrease in self-compassion, self-worth, self-love, self-esteem, restriction of many foods, lost touch with your body and decreased self-trust, short-term weight loss, maybe, and a poor relationship with food and your body. Research suggests that 1/3 to 2/3 of weight is regained after 1 year on a diet, and then all is regained after 5 years. Here's the thing. Diets are failing you. You're not failing the diet. When you're on a diet, you're like a pendulum going back and forth to two different extremes. One extreme is restriction, and the other extreme is eating to discomfort. This continues until you stop the diet, stop the restriction, and then find peace. But inevitably, it starts up again, and you're back to being that back and forth pendulum. In physics, resistance always comes as a reaction to force. In other words, when you force yourself to diet and restrict, your body will automatically resist. So the goal with intuitive eating is to slow that pendulum swing and help you find that peace in the middle. Does this sound or look familiar? This is the cycle of dieting, the vicious cycle of dieting. Whether you are personally familiar with this or you are indirectly familiar with this through a friend, colleague, family member, it starts with this desire to change your body. You choose a diet. Ultimately, you have cravings. You end up eating past discomfort or past comfort to discomfort, and then you regain any weight you lost. And then the cycle begins, and it's this vicious cycle. These two quotes are from Body Respect by Lindo Bacon. Dieting is the gateway to making food more forbidden and enticing. And dieting undermines self-trust and connection with your body. I want you to stop and think about these two quotes and I want to ask if you agree with them. So the last time you were on a diet, think about the food you most restricted. Was it sugar? Was it carbs like bread or pasta? Now think about the food you wanted most. Chances are it was the exact food you restricted. How does dieting undermine self-trust? Here's an example. You measure your food in a measuring cup or however it is, a tablespoon if it's peanut butter. You've got your measuring tools. You eat it all, but you're still hungry. You ignore that hunger because you ate the amount that the diet said to eat, or you ate the amount that the label suggested. You've lost trust in your body to tell you what and how much to eat. Dieting impacts attunement to body signals and cues. And in fact, I've met with people who, after years of dieting, say to me, Gina, I just don't know how to eat anymore. When we stop trying to control our weight or our hunger through willpower, our biology will start doing the job for us. So give me an apple or a cupcake when I'm dieting, and you better believe 100% of the time I will choose that cupcake. I'll give myself that permission, that one time to eat that cupcake. As an intuitive eater, if you gave me a choice between a cupcake and an apple, there will be times I would choose the cupcake, but there would also be times I might choose the apple because of how I know it will make me feel, because I love apples, and because I know if I want that cupcake later, I'm absolutely going to eat it. I have no restriction. There's no restriction present. A 2013 research review found that dieting was a predictor of future weight gain, not loss. Dieting increases your risk for gaining even more weight beyond your set point weight. Biological mechanisms trigger rebound weight gain from dieting. So we all have this blueprint weight that we're meant to be, which is otherwise known as our set point weight. This is the weight our body lands on when we live without restriction, without exercising, and without overthinking our food choices. So our body, our biology is always doing what it can to get us at that weight, which is why dieting just doesn't work in the long run. Our biology will always take over. There's very little we can do about that. How have diets served you? Have you ever been on a diet that actually worked? Take a moment right now and think about that diet. What was the diet? How did you eat during that diet? Were you able to stick to it long term? So even if it worked short term, were you able to stick to it long term? Maybe you're still on it. How did you treat yourself mentally and physically during and after the diet? How are you treating yourself mentally and physically now if you're still on the diet? Would you do it again if given the choice? In the long run, did the diet or is the diet serving you well? Let's explore the hidden forms of dieting and diet mentality. Go ahead and flip to page 28 in your workbook and read the statements on that worksheet and put a check mark in next to any that apply to you. Go ahead and pause this module until you're ready. I want to know, do any of these statements apply to you? Do you say or think any of these? What do you think makes these statements forms of dieting or diet mentality? Here's the thing. A lot of these statements are riddled with guilt and a lack of permission, which is a common trait of a diet. Thinking of food as something that is bad or good, healthy or unhealthy, feeling the need to make up for quote unquote poor food choices, engaging in some type of accounting, whether it's calorie counting, points counting, counting the time on the clock, cleanses or cheat days. So cleanses that make up for your cheat days. They're all forms of dieting that take away from your ability to really enjoy food and listen to and trust your body. That brings us to our first voices segment. As a reminder, these voices segments are a great opportunity to just break up the monotony of my voice, but also to get other perspectives on intuitive eating and to hear wisdom from different professionals in the area of intuitive eating and body trust. Nicole Morrissey is a good friend of mine and was also my podcast co-host for 3 years. In this clip, Nicole talks about a diet tool that she has given up and will never go back to. Nicole and I have talked a lot about our relationship with food and our bodies via our conversations on the podcast. And as you will hear in this clip, Nicole is still not always comfortable with her body, but she has learned to accept it rather than resist it. And because of that, she feels she lives a happier, more fulfilling life. Please note this recording was clipped at the beginning because Nicole's voice was a bit too soft to hear. So it starts mid-sentence. You're going to miss her very short introduction, but I just gave her one. Also, you may need to turn up your volume a bit for this recording, as I mentioned at the beginning, and I apologize for the inconvenience. Take a listen.
That said, I am a registered dietitian. I'm also a certified diabetes care and education specialist. I spend my days working with predominantly a population living with diabetes. I'm also a mother to 2 adorable little girls who I hope grow to love and respect their bodies and others' bodies and all the amazing things that our bodies do and the wonders of food and good health and enjoyment of all of those things. And Gina asked me the question, what is a diet tool that I used but no longer use? And I think that's a pretty easy one to come up with. I have a long-standing history of dieting in the traditional sense of restriction, increased activity, under consuming calories, and admittedly some long ago past of some pretty unhealthy habits in that way, um, starting at a very young age, really about 13. And I would say one of those tools that I used at that time that I've ditched is really tracking my intake from, particularly from a calorie perspective. Tracking bites, licks, tastes, amounts, measuring my food, recording my food, and really just being hyper aware of everything that's coming into my body. Do I miss it? Absolutely not. It's time consuming. It sucks the joy and value really that I find from eating, from cooking, from really living. It puts a task associated with everything that you do, and largely that's social. It's a lot. Food is a part of everyone's lives daily, multiple times a day, and associating that with the record keeping system is simply exhausting to think about. And in terms of how difficult it was for me to give up that tool, if we can even call it that, I guess it is that. It wasn't difficult for me because I was exhausted by it. I was truly ready to divorce once and for all from that system of checks and balance for myself. And what ultimately helped to give it up for me, was accepting who I was and the body that I was given, which admittedly is not the size that I would have chosen for myself, but it's also a size that I am able to maintain easily, live life well, comfortably for the most part. And certainly, while I wish I can wish a lot of things, and a lower weight or a smaller size is one of those things, if I'm being honest. Um, that said, I am able to say that from a very healthy perspective of knowing that I can want that and still be okay not having that, and even thriving in a space that doesn't include that for me and this life that I'm living. So I would say it was just living that life and wanting something more, seeing the other side, the what could be, the breaking free, if you will, from that restriction and that habit of that tool and that record keeping. And I think what I would encourage someone who's beginning their intuitive eating journey is to really trust, that our bodies are miraculous. They really, really are. And we can want, and our society can want, and social media can tell us a lot of things. And those are strong messages and they're deeply rooted, but that doesn't mean that they're right. And I think once we can trust and know that it's going to be okay, try something new, try breaking the habit of that tool, of using that tool, of recording, and really get back to basics in terms of what do you like to eat? What sounds good? Does that sound good today? Maybe not. How much do you want to eat? Don't pay attention to the clock. Is your body telling you it's time to eat? And really getting in tune with what your body is capable of doing in terms of fueling you, both for nutrition and sustainability, but also for joy and good health, and really getting back to basics on what food and movement can do for you. And I think striking that balance and finding what that means for each individual is a different look and feel. But having achieved that, and I can say that very proudly, having achieved that, I'm really happy. It's no longer difficult at all for me to not track my food or what I'm eating. And so I would really want that, honestly, for anyone and everyone, really finding that food freedom and that enjoyment that can come from leading a healthy life in terms of food and wellness. And I even cringe a bit using that word healthy, but I think I feel healthier with my relationship with food than I have ever in the past. And I guess I just want to give assurance to those out there that may question what that may mean for their bodies or their shapes or their sizes, and just say that it's going to be okay, and to lean into that a little bit, and just sit with the uncertainty of what that may mean, and be open to a different way of looking at it. Thanks so much.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed hearing from Nicole. We're going to go ahead and pause again and have you fill in page 26 in the workbook, getting rid of the tools of dieting. Again, just a reminder, those external tools of dieting, I call them external cues, are weighing, measuring, counting, basing your food choices off of a diet or a label. So which tools of dieting will be most difficult for you to let go of? In looking at this list on page 26, are there any tools that you've already gotten rid of? That brings us to the end of this first module. And just to review, I have highlighted some further learning on this first principle of intuitive eating, ditching diet mentality. There's a comprehensive list of intuitive eating research listed in your worksheet that I've given you, but also as far as self-compassion, body kindness by Rebecca Scritchfield, practices to help befriend yourself on page 206 if you get that book. And then I highly recommend the self-compassion book by Dr. Kristen Neff, The Proven Power of Being Kind to Yourself, as well as Health at Every Size. There's numerous health sheets, which is just basically research to support that our weight really doesn't predict our health. And then I also want to point out an important book that I just read by Dahlia Kinsey, who you'll hear from on the fourth module, and it is called Decolonizing Wellness, which I have again listed in your worksheet. I'm also going to be highlighting some good podcast episodes at the end of each module. The first one is Eat the Rules. It's a podcast. And on episode 227, I love this episode. It's called Death to Diets. What if you need to diet for health and mobility? So what if you're listening to me right now and you're thinking, but Gina, I have to diet and lose weight for my health and mobility. This would be a good episode for you to listen to. And also the Food Voice podcast, episode 154, How to Stop Wanting to Lose Weight. And then your only assignment really for until the next module, if you are interested, go ahead and fill out page 19 in the workbook, your dieting history worksheet. And then as far as intentions, I actually do also would love for you to write a letter to yourself. Like I said at the beginning of this module, where are you now on your wellness journey? And how is your relationship with food in your body currently? And where would you like to be? And also another intention might be a fun experiment, picking a diet tool that you're willing to get rid of starting today. After you really take a deep dive in the tools of dieting that are still in your life, which one can you get rid of, or which one can you start to get rid of? Also, I want you to start to be aware of negative self-talk and diet mentality. We're going to be discussing this more in later modules. It's going to come up constantly, but simply being aware of that negative self-talk is really a great place to start. I hope you've enjoyed this module. Remember to reach out to me at any time for questions or comments.